Okay, camera, lights, action. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to season 3, episode 10 of the phenomenon known to all as Saturday afternoon's main event. And I would like to introduce you to, well, if you don't know who I am, let me just put it like this. If you're dumb, stupid, or haven't been back to school, I suggest you go ahead and pick up a dictionary and look me under the word phenomenal. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and if you still can't read, I suggest you go ahead and look at the name above the ticker. Yes, it is the phenomenal one, the host of Saturday afternoon's main event. But, of course, if you've been here for about a good year and a half and you've been following us through in here, you know that I am not alone. Joining me is my co-host, the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing son of a gun, who is certainly not having a hard time holding his alligators down. Now give me 2 claps and a peep snatch.
Woo! Yes, I am here. The suntan Superman and the deep voice Dynamo. Here again for another Saturday afternoon's main event. How you doing, partner?
Oh, I'm doing fine, and I know you're doing fine too, and I know that the viewers are doing fine as well. Happy Saturday afternoon to anybody that is out here listening to Saturday afternoon's main event on either Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch. Now, of course, you guys know that we have a jam-packed episode for you guys. And listen, we're here to do what we do best. Give you, the fans of professional wrestling, laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. So to kick off the show, let's go ahead and get right into it with Fast Track. Peeps, I know you like this part of the show where we go ahead and get to as much news as possible in the least amount of time. And of course, to go ahead and start it off, let's just put it like this. Peeps, the Forbidden Door is actually a real thing. Yes, we know this, but the fact that we're getting it pay-per-view, headlining, I mean Chicago, lights, camera, I mean professional wrestling at its peak. What do you think about this?
I think that this was probably the worst kept secret in all of wrestling. I think that based on what we've been seeing over the last 6 months between New Japan, or I could even say about a year between New Japan and what the AEW, the mindset of the AEW roster, the aura of AEW, what they've been trying to do is include other promotions within the world of AEW. As far as we saw the Impact crossover that they did,
Of
they've
course.
worked with New Japan before. We now know because of Ring of Honor and Tony Khan buying the company, incorporating that into AEW. So this is just a natural progression, something that was eventually going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And if I'm not mistaken, since it's going to be in Chicago, I think the tickets are going to start going on sale this weekend or
Yes.
within the next couple of days. So getting that ready and then having the pay-per-view in June, uh, that is going to be absolutely epic. I was going to
Oh,
say phenomenal. I left you. I left you on it just a little
it's
bit, just a
okay.
little bit.
It's okay. It's okay.
Gotta earn that phenomenal tag today.
Don't worry. We're gonna be getting to it. We're gonna be
Yes,
getting to
yes.
it.
It's
But
a slow
certainly
build, folks.
slow build, but there's many slow builds today, ladies and
Yes,
gentlemen, just letting you know. So just know we're in for a lot of I digresses from peeps. But
yes. And as you can
aside from that,
tell, I've got the pen. So
always he's always ready, ladies and gentlemen.
yes,
What can you
yes.
do with a tag team partner like Peeps Nate? But
Yes.
certainly, yes, we move on from there to the world of WWE. And ladies and gentlemen, it's crazy to think the Fiend will be a married man. Yes,
Wow.
ladies and gentlemen, the Fiend Bray Wyatt alongside his fiance JoJo Offerman will go ahead and get married. I mean, listen, we already have many Wyndhams running around anyway, so I mean,
Yes.
let's just say this again was also the most worst kept secret in professional, or should I sports entertainment. I'm so sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
guys, just had to go ahead and say that. But certainly, congrats to the Fiend, congrats to JoJo. I mean, but certainly, aside from that, listen, if anything after the wedding happens, we're just hoping to see him back in a wrestling ring. If that's all we can ask for, peeps, I mean, you
Yeah.
know,
The one
exactly.
thing that I will say is that Wyndham Rotunda is probably one of the most fortunate men walking God's green earth. Don't screw this up. That's all I can say.
Peeps, you're too much.
Yes,
You're too much, man.
congratulations. I'll say congratulations to himself and his family. They already have a child together. I'm pretty sure there might be more in their future if they so choose to. Hopefully, everything is happy for them. Everything, because how they met, it sounded like it was kind of rocky, met in other different ways. But however they found each other, hopefully everything works out fine and happy, renewed happiness to them, and hopefully everything works out for them. So
Of course,
congratulations to
of
them.
course, of course.
I
Always
saw I
rooting for the
saw
best.
the picture where she revealed the ring, and she was a very happy woman. So
I mean,
congratulations to
I
both.
mean, I mean, listen, we already know that ain't Vince's money. So I mean, hey,
Yeah.
listen, Wyndham going well for his life right now. I'm telling you the truth.
Yes.
But certainly,
Exactly.
once more, congrats to them. From there, we still go into the world of WWE. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard yet, yes, we talked about this a couple of weeks back on S.A.M.E, but now WWE has finally came up with a name for their UK paper. Premium live event.
Premium
How many
live
how
event.
many slip
Yes.
ups are we gonna have today? Yes, ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen, the name of the live event will be Clash at the Castle. It will take place in Cardiff, Wales, in the UK at Principality Stadium.
Hmm.
Peeps, the fact that he actually reverted to going ahead and giving it somewhat of a 90s feel name.
Yes.
What are we in for?
Hopefully, we're in for something better than WrestleMania Backlash, and I think we'll talk about that a little later
Oh
on.
God.
But I digress. That's the first one.
First one.
That's the first one, and that's probably the earliest one you heard in quite some time.
Oh yes,
Uh,
certainly.
I actually like the name. It's simplistic yet harkens back to, like you said, the older kind of in your house pay-per-view names that they used to use back then when they were called pay-per-views. So to have a show and it's going to be in Wales, you're going to have that flavor. I can only imagine what the set will look like because the WWE, one thing that they do better than anyone is production, as
Yes,
far as getting
of course.
camera angles and pyro, getting the stage set, the theme that they will use for that event. I think is going to be probably they're going to invest millions of dollars into that,
Oh,
especially since
for a
this is the
fact.
first time in 30 years that they've been and over there and have done a live premium live event, a PLE, if you will. Yes, this is going to drive me nuts, but hey, what can you say?
What
But
can we
this is what
say?
they're looking for, and I think this is going to be fine. I think the UK fans actually deserve a show of this nature and a big scale, going with the way that the WWE wants to get these big stadiums for these shows and the mindset that Nick Khan wants to have and has kind of convinced Vince McMahon that all of our premium live events should all be in big, broad stadiums, huge areas where they would have lots of, at least the visual, the optics is that
Yes,
you've got a huge open air stadium and you're going to have all of these people. And even if they don't sell the place out, which I'm pretty sure they probably will, but
I
even
mean
if they
it's the
don't,
UK,
you're going to have a lot more than you would have said if it was inside of, say, a regular, normal indoor stadium
of
or
course,
indoor arena.
of
So
course.
this definitely works out.
Oh yes, I mean certainly, certainly. But peeps, due to the fact that we know that we may have a returning Bailey, what are the odds of
Hmm.
having to see Bailey go ahead and show up at that show and hearing the crowd go ahead and hit the "Hey Bailey" chants? I mean, peeps, it's the
Good
UK.
grief.
I mean,
Yes, I can imagine there will be soccer chants going on, or
oh
excuse me,
yes,
football chants for our European friends out there.
yes,
So
of course.
I can see that happening.
I
I can
mean,
see this the Seven Nations Army chant going through there for a different amount of people that are there. I can definitely see it happening.
it's certainly going to be something to look forward to. So, guys, certainly once September comes around, we will be looking forward to Clash at the Castle. Moving
Yes.
off from WWE, we go into AEW. And peeps, this is a certain agreement that I can go ahead and put out. Listen, Hook and Danhausen will cure COVID. I'm being honest. Listen. Coming from my peeps, listen. Trust me on this. Hook, Hausen. Yes, I'm shipping the names together.
Yes.
This will cure COVID. I mean, world peace is already at hand the moment I say Hook, Hausen.
Yes.
As much as I thought this past week, I probably would have seen Danhausen go ahead and go up against Hook, and we didn't get that. But we got somewhat of an agreement. I guess you can say that the seeds have been planted for this to actually be a tag team. But what I want to go ahead and say is, what are the odds of this actually foiling? As much as I wouldn't want it to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on how you look at it. If you're a traditionalist like me, who wants to see Hook literally rip everyone's head off and continue on the trajectory that he is on now, you're looking at this as, oh boy, more comedy. But also, if you're looking at it from the fact that Danhausen is so over, he is as over as Hook is, and in some instances, maybe even more. Exactly. Cast. If that is the case, and they can do this in a way that doesn't scream BS, 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 it can work. I mean, who would have thought that Matt Riddle and Randy Orton as a tag team would work? And that worked. It has to be something that's somewhat organic, yet at the same time doesn't make either one of the characters look sillier than they should be. I know Danhausen is, especially on the indie circuit, is so over. And especially since he signed with AEW and he's been there, he hasn't really had a match on television yet. Exactly. So we need to see him in ring to see what he can do. But at the same time, Hook is getting more press because we've seen what he's done, and he just beat you up, crossface, red rum, tap you out, match over. If they can somehow meld that together without it coming across as too much Orange Cassidy kind of comedy skit type, it can work. It could work. Will it work? We'll have to find out.
We'll have to find out, but certainly let's just hope that there's not many deaths of potato chip bags in the process.
Yes, especially barbecue.
Yes, please don't.
Yeah.
But from that, ladies and gentlemen, we go back into WWE. And peeps, I just have to say, listen. The Almighty One, I didn't know he breaks ropes too. And I say this because, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard yet, let me just go ahead and display the video for you.
Claymore. Oh! That was a botch. That was not supposed to happen.
You think?
Tell me about it.
Oh, good grief. That was scary.
Tell me about it. I mean, wow. But yes, over at a UK show, we got to go ahead and see probably one of the greatest memes since the Titus slip up at the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Bobby Lashley broke the ropes. I mean, of course, listen, something tells me, along with a lot of those cuts that we will get onto later in the show, something tells me that the dudes that go ahead and actually, build the ring, they probably got one of those Vince McMahon's, you're fine.
Yeah. I don't even think they waited until the show was over. That probably happened as the rope snapped. Before Lashley hit the ground, somebody was already fired.
They put a Earl Ebner at the Montreal screw job. Just leave the arena. Pack your bags and just leave the arena. Just go.
I'm not sticking around for this. That's for sure.
Sticking around, exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, trust me, another good botch during a live event.
Yes, and the only reason why we can really joke about it is because no one was severely hurt or anything like that. Because we've seen more than enough botches, broken ropes, a ring collapse. We've seen guys get injured, unfortunately, somebody slipping on ice. Those kinds of things happen. So you don't want to ever hear anything like that of somebody getting injured. But the good thing is, Lashley was able to get out of this, no issues, no harm, no foul, and you get a good chuckle out of it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, peeps, speaking of chuckles, and I don't want to be the next Adam Schefter, certainly won't. Let me just go ahead and say that, this picture says a lot because I myself have the same reaction. And if you can go ahead and see what's behind me, that is a picture of Sammy Guevara.
Yeah.
Face open, shocked as heck. Why? Because Sammy Guevara has suffered an injury. This happened off of, I believe, Dynamite or Rampage.
That was on Dynamite.
Exactly right. And we had a ladder match, and he went against Scorpio Sky for the TNT title once more. Ended up losing, but still, he suffered an injury. Not sure how long he will be out for, but certainly we hope for a speedy recovery. And lastly, for Fast Track today, we get into one more thing. And peeps, I think I'm gonna hear another I digress for this one. The tag team title unification has turned into a 6-man non-title match. What the actual heck? Like, we're being for real here, peeps. Like,
you see me holding back the choppers here. Like an old man chewing on corn, making sure nothing falls out of his mouth after the absolute nonsense. So let me get this straight. Let me just get this straight. Since WrestleMania, or literally the SmackDown after WrestleMania, Roman Reigns has been on this power trip. Okay, Roman Reigns' character wants his cousins, the Usos, to win everything. Smash them and rack them and do all of this stuff, which is what he did at WrestleMania to Brock Lesnar. For the last 3 weeks, all they've been talking about is unify the belts. Unify the belts. I want you to go on Raw and put it to them. And then go ahead and get that Unification Championship match, which for the last 2 weeks, since they did the signing or alleged signing, this was going to be literally the best thing about WrestleMania Backlash. This is what they've been talking about on television. So here we go with the incompetent Adam Pearce, who can't seem to book matches when they're supposed to, but yet can then overturn matches when they make more sense not to. Then you bring them on, they're about to do their contract, and then what happens? They rip up the contract on SmackDown, and so now there's no match, yet you make the main event of the match the unified champion teaming up with his cousins in a 6-man tag where there is now no title match. Oh, that makes perfect sense to me. I'm wondering if this has anything to do with the fact that somebody decided to realize if you start unifying all of your belts, yet you don't promote the people that have your secondary championships as anything other than fodder, well, what's the point of having them with championships to begin with? There are no real tag teams out there except the singles wrestler that they put together as a tag team, only to break them up at some point. Because both of us have talked about this before.
Yes.
RK Bros breaking up at some point. This is part of the reason why I think this was changed, because it went from RK Bro, they look okay, to RK Bro winning the belts, to RK Bro looking, you know what, I don't think we need to break this team up. They're making us way too much merchandise. Exactly. So what has ended up happening is they, catch where I'm going, fast track this match to put it in to the premium live event, and has thrown all of the people there. Part of it is because they don't want to split RK Bro up, and they know they have something working on Raw. They also know that the Usos aren't losing those belts anytime soon, because they know that going with Roman Reigns makes perfect sense to keep all of them with belts. So somebody had to pump the brakes here. It's absolutely insane. What was the point of all of this build if they went this route on SmackDown? What was the point of this if you're saying that now, because if you remember a couple weeks ago, everybody thought that this was going to be Roman Reigns versus Shinsuke Nakamura. You remember that?
Exactly
And
right.
all of a sudden, he's been forgotten. I haven't seen him since. He's in the witness protection program again. Roman doesn't have anything to do except, oh, we're going to have him against Drew McIntyre, which I have no problem with. But let's really be honest. Does anybody believe that he's going to be taking out uh, the tribal chief anytime soon?
Of course not.
So there's your problem. And this is part of the issues that I brought up, that you brought up for weeks. In unifying any championships, it's going to either be you're going to wrestle here or there, and you're only going to use the champ as a mouthpiece to advertise the next show, or you're going to dilute the product by forcing him down everyone's throats.
Once more,
I'm finding it hard to get words for how backwards this is. But hey,
I hear you, peeps. You don't have to say too much. But I think it's gonna grind your gears a little more, because that is the end to Fast Track, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. Of course, if you want to go ahead and keep up with more updates, I suggest you go ahead and follow us on Instagram. Peeps, you can point down to it on Instagram at Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. Of course, there's an underscore right there. You can catch it. But with that being the end to this, let's go ahead and get into something a little more complex. Now, peeps, of course, we've heard it already. Constantly. We've spoken about this. I mean, as most of probably 4 times on the show. And once again, it's 2022. So what would it be to not go ahead and have the 2 biggest words in sports entertainment? And you know what that is, peeps? Ladies and gentlemen, it is budget cuts. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a new
you're going to hear a lot of stuff here, folks.
There's a new outbreak of WWE releases. Now, just this past Friday, which is yesterday, of course, we had learned, and I got my news reported from Fightful, that WWE released a good number of stars. Now, of course, I'm not going to go ahead and think highly of this because, listen, at the end of the day, probably, a couple of talent that wasn't being used probably on TV. I thought Drew Gulak was a part of this for some reason. And, I wasn't really paying no mind. But then the names kind of shocked me. And these are the names as followed: Mila Milani, Raylan Devine, Draco Anthony, Blair Baldwin, Sanjana George, Persia Parati, who, listen, I didn't watch NXT as much, but truth be told, I sat there and just saw her as one of those counterparts to the whole Indy and Dexter thing. And we will get into that because why? Of course, the next couple of big names were as followed: Harland. How in the hell do you get rid of Harland? Also known to many as his real name, Parker Bordeaux. Peeps, you know something? I digress. That's the, I believe, second one. It's okay,
yes,
because
that's number 2.
there's more names. There's more names.
Wait, there's more. You sound like Billy Mays. There's much more.
There is more, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Next, of course, Malcolm Bivens of the Diamond Mine. Okay. It's okay. It can't get any worse, right? But, as the song goes, it's not over yet.
Yes.
It is not over yet.
Yes.
Why? Because next, as I said, I was talking about Indy Hartwell for a good second, and no, Indy is not released. But you know who is? The opposite of what I would go ahead and do right now. Yes, Dexter Lumis has been released by World Wrestling Entertainment. But wait, in the words of the dude that goes ahead and has the Oxy King commercial, there's more.
Oh,
last,
more? Really?
Last but not least.
Oh boy.
Oh God, peeps. You ready for this?
Go ahead, lay it on me.
Oh God. Of course, the picture that you can see right behind me, if you can't see it perfectly, but you can see somewhat of the highlights and you already get the memo of who it is.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, World Wrestling Entertainment, shortly known as WWE, has released Dakota Kai. Peeps, there's one thing that I know about you and I on S.A.M.E. It's that when we talk about budget cuts, we spend a long time talking about budget cuts. And I mean, we already know 3 things. Number 1, WWE is not going bankrupt. Number 2, they made more money during the pandemic than they did at any other one of their quarters prior before. And 3, they go ahead and released some of the stars that could potentially be good for their company in the long run to keep others that they barely even use. So, it's okay, because we're not going to go ahead and waste time into wanting to go ahead and get into why this happened, because we already know that the front office at World Wrestling Entertainment is jaded. They are all over the place. They don't know what the heck they're doing. So what's the point of going ahead and giving them the time of day of explaining their case? We're not doing that today. Certainly not, because if I do, many more I digresses will come in the future, but I know, peeps, you probably have some things to say.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The floor is yours. I tag you in.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to try to keep this as I'm going to be contrite. I'm going to be concise. And I'm also going to put some nouns and verbs in my sentences so I can get this going.
Okay, grammar lesson, everybody. Get ready for this one.
Grammar lesson. There you go. First off, the idea that the WWE, I'm gonna say WWE, but the only name that should be inserted in this is Vince McMahon, and I guess you can add John Laurinaitis and Nick Khan and the normal people that would be there. But we all know, even though the chain of command is where it is, nothing happens without Vince's blessing. Vince McMahon himself has said for at least the past, I'd say 8 months to a year, that NXT was going to no longer be a breeding ground for indies. We're going to go bigger, stronger, faster. We're going to have guys that we can turn that are younger, that can become future stars, so that when they move to the main roster, we can then market them and they can be the future of the company. So what have we seen in the last few weeks? We've had Dolph Ziggler, who has been a literal career WWE superstar. He's been in the company about a decade, maybe a little more than a decade. He's been your NXT champion. Just about a year or so ago, you had Charlotte Flair win your NXT Women's Championship and then go to WrestleMania and defend said championship. So we had that. We've had, within the last couple of weeks, the Viking Raiders, who are now part of the NXT roster, apparently, because they didn't have anything to do with them on the main roster other than bowl, apparently. And then we have all of these stars that they bring up that they say, well, we're not going to do this anymore. Okay, so we already know it's a hypocritical statement for the WWE to say this, because they know that their ratings are in the toilet based on the fact that they had to move nights. This is part of what's been going on. They've had to move from Wednesday nights to Tuesday nights because they couldn't compete with AEW's ratings. So that's one thing. This is what led to this whole rebrand in the first place. Second of all, the rebranding that we have seen, they've gone back on their own reasoning, as I just stated in the previous point. But now the guys that are here, that are being released, that have been released, some of them, maybe you want to use the budget cuts argument. You can do that if that's what makes your boat float, as the expression goes. If you like it, I love it. Fine. The issue here is you have not only moved guys over from getting the potential to be built, you've then changed names on a whim. When you have brand recognition for a particular character and then you up and change that character's name, and then you all of a sudden just say, well, I'm done with it. What does that do to the fan base? Even more so, as you stated about the front office, the people, the writers, the people that are booking the show, etc. What does that do to storylines that you already have in place that are now interrupted because you've given them zero notice whatsoever as to what the heck is going on? So you just had Persia Parada and Indy Blackwell, who are in a what seems to be a kind of mid-card love angle with Duke Hudson, and then throwing in Dexter Lumis, who was kayfabe married to Indy. Dexter Lumis is now gone. The former, whose real name is Samuel Shaw, who was in Impact Wrestling for a brief moment with that crazy stalker angle that he used to do. But that's neither here nor there. You've gotten rid of that. Persia Parada, who looked very promising. She had some pretty decent matches. She looked like she can actually go, but you've gotten rid of that character. Harlan, who they put all of this effort into the next big thing. Apparently, they didn't. He wasn't progressing in the ring to the extent that they wanted, which was supposed to be the reason why NXT exists in the first place, to get him over. You didn't give him any wrestling matches other than a couple of squashes, and that's about it. He didn't say anything, so you can't say his promos weren't progressing because he didn't talk. But the thing that drives me absolutely insane about this whole deal is that when you say that NXT is supposed to be the breeding ground for future stars, and you're trying to kind of get them used to the main roster as far as wrestling goes, as far as camera work, storytelling, etc., etc. Where do they get the chance if they don't get the push? Malcolm Bivens, who is, as far as I'm concerned, a very good mouthpiece, stated apparently from what I read, he knew his contract was coming up as far as February and did not want to resign. So what ended up happening is the WWE apparently threw him a bone and said, we're going to make you the mouthpiece for the Diamond Mine. What has happened to the Diamond Mine in the last few months? They basically ripped this faction apart. One of the guys that was part of the crew was part of the last roster cut list a few months ago. Bivens, who's the mouthpiece of the Diamond Mine, is now gone. So Roderick Strong is the only one left from a previous roster cutting issue. And now what is he going to do with these guys? And I'll almost guarantee you, if Vince likes what he sees in the Creed brothers, they're either going to do one of two things. They're either going to split them both up and they're going to make one a barber and they're going to make the other one a bowler, or they're going to turn them into a tag team and move them off the main roster and do something else with them. And then who knows what's going to happen to Roderick Strong. I tell you, the things that this company does is absolutely mind-boggling. But we should not be surprised because they don't know what they're doing. And I feel sorry for the fans more so because the fans have to look and watch this stuff right now. There has to be more of a thought process in what are they going to do with these guys? Because they're playing with characters that apparently if Vince never had an idea that he was going to push them, why have them on the show in the first place? And then have them into storylines and have them into doing, well, we're going to do this on this show. And this one is going to next week have, think about that. If they had said that they were booking guys to have matches next week or the week after, what happened? Those storylines are now dead. Wesley lost his partner because of things that happened away from the business. And as we've seen, until they can figure out what they're going to do with Wesley, MSK as a tag team is done, and there's nothing going forward. So what do you do after that? These are the kinds of things that the WWE has to have a better grasp of, because whether they want to acknowledge this or not, this is a great way to lose fans. This is a great way to lose ratings. This is a great way to lose continuity with the people that are writing your product. And this is a great way to alienate the people that are supposed to be paying for the subscriptions to see your premium live events that are going to USA Network to see this show, that are going to see the show on Fox and going to see the show on USA Network, and then say, what am I looking at? That's as far as I'm going to go with that, because then I'll rant for another 20 minutes. I give it back to you.
I don't blame you, Peeps, but I'm just going to go ahead and end it off with this question. What do you see within the next week, because something tells me that if they get rid of these stars off NXT, then the main roster is not far apart.
Oh, of course.
So
We definitely know that this is just the beginning.
yeah,
Usually the cuts and the releases are the week of WrestleMania, maybe the week after WrestleMania. Apparently, because of how much money they made with the past WrestleMania and some of the other things that were going on, they kind of pushed it down. Oh, give it another week, another 2 weeks. You'll hear more, and it'll be on the main roster. It'll be on Raw and SmackDown. Guys that are being cut, guys that aren't there. That whatever is the case, and we'll see that.
certainly. Well, sadly, to all the stars that were released this past Friday, we go ahead and wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and hopefully,
Yes.
hopefully, I can go ahead and probably see Dakota Kai on
Yes.
AEW.
And
I mean,
unlike the that flatline, future endeavor line that they emailed all of the WWE employees that get cut, my partner and I actually mean that. Keep your heads up, stay within the business if that's what you really want to do, and let this all filter out, and then you will hopefully be able to find your way, get back on your feet, and get back into the business that you guys love. Don't let this kill your love of the business and keep you away from what you can and want to do with your careers. To ply your trade, there are many other options. MLW still around, Impact, AEW, New Japan, GCW, all of those avenues are still out there for you. So just keep your heads up and stay within the business and continue to apply your craft, because there are some diamonds in this mine, and I did that on purpose.
I know you did. But certainly, wish you all the best.
Yes.
And that is the end to the first half of Saturday afternoon's main event, ladies and gentlemen. We will have Peep's most favorite part of S.A.M E, the questions. And after that, we will go in and get into the next topic at hand. And that is Punk versus Adam Page, Double or Nothing, AEW title on the line. So don't go anywhere, because the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Well, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event, episode 10, season 3. And Peeps, listen, to go ahead and get away from most of the I digresses that you probably had to go ahead and go through in your mind and not verbally say today, let's go ahead and ease it up.
I had to spray away the stink of that last segment for those cuts. I mean, and
it costs a hefty price too. That hurts too, because due to the fact that Lysol is almost like $20. To waste some Lysol on Vincent Kennedy McMahon has to hurt. I don't blame you.
It is what it is.
Don't blame you, man. Don't blame you. Yeah. But certainly, let's go ahead and get into the questions. And guys, as we say, we always like answering the questions. So if you want to go ahead and send in some questions, the best way to go ahead and do it, send it to us on our Instagram, down below at the ticker, on IG at Saturday afternoons _main event. There it goes. Yeah, you see coming. Yeah, there, you guys see it. You guys see it. But let's go ahead and start off the questions with the first ever one, and it comes from Peep's favorite person, and Tunney we trust. He says, so I guess this Drew and Roman story carries through till that UK pay-per-view. I can see that possibly being the case due to the fact that I don't think Cody may go into a championship contending type of storyline until next year's WrestleMania, so to say. But I mean, due to the fact that it's in the UK, and I think Drew actually wants that moment, it's gonna happen. So I think yes, this actually may carry through Clash at the Castle. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think, let's see. You figure the next pay-per-view, premium live event. See, we were gonna just botch that. When we are looking at the future pay-per-views that WWE is doing. I know SummerSlam is for the first time ever in a July. They're doing it the last weekend of July and not the August that we usually see, which is kind of weird. You figuring you got next month is a pay-per-view. June, I believe, is Money in the Bank. And then you've got SummerSlam in July.
Yes.
August, I don't know what pay-per-view they're doing because I haven't looked further down the road yet as far as the pay-per-views go. But you're figuring we're now almost at May, June, July, August, September. That pay-per-view is in September, I believe, in Cardiff.
Yes, the 3rd.
So you got 4 months. They are, I would like to say they're not going to drag this on for 4 months, but then again, look how long the Happy Corbin feud went. So they could probably do something like that. I don't think it makes any sense because they're not going to have the same build that they had with Roman's feud and Brock's feud. That's so I beg to differ if Drew was actually going to be in the main event of that match. So yeah, they could try and do it, but if that was the case, then they should not have had this start so early. They could have saved this for June, maybe July, and then build it in because they run the possibility of actually souring the fans on this. Like, oh, they just had this feud last year. If I'm not mistaken, both of them were WWE and Universal champions respectively, and went into a feud last year. So, maybe is it too soon?
We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. But Tony,
yes,
good observation. Next comes from Tombstone City, Adam. And he says, the fact that I'm actually hyped for Backlash makes me think that I lost a screw in my head. I would say the same thing because, being that Backlash was going to be hyped for me because I actually wanted to go ahead and see this title unification match and see if Riddle was to be the one to turn on Randy Orton. And then, I wanted to see that I Quit match, which is still going on. Thank God. Hopefully Adam Pearce doesn't ruin that too. I would say the same thing. Peeps, what are your thoughts on this? Are you hyped?
Yeah, that should give you an idea of it right now.
That says all I need to know. Yeah,
it's the classic bait and switch. Everybody was going in thinking that this was going to be the unification match, and all of a sudden, it's now just a regular 6-man tag. If that was the case, they could have put this on television and made this a Saturday night's main event. They could have made this on Raw. They could have done this on SmackDown. Because in all reality, that's what this match looks like. This looks like one of those matches that happen, somebody was supposed to wrestle somebody else, and then in the middle of the match, interference happened, and then Adam Pearce runs out, I'm booking a match for all of you guys next week to be here on SmackDown or on Raw. And that's what this looks like. Not the main event of a pay-per-view, especially when there really is nothing involved. There are no stakes in this match. That's the reason why the match is going to be good, but this isn't something that I'm going to be hyped up for, especially since this is supposed to be WrestleMania Backlash. The prerequisite rematches involved to either start new feuds or kind of give you that last rematch from WrestleMania. This isn't that because they didn't wrestle each other at WrestleMania. Matter of fact, neither of the people involved in the match wrestled against each other at WrestleMania. So what's the backlash? The backlash is we're not going to give you what you want. But I digress. There's your third.
Third one today. Doesn't get old.
It's a good question, Tombstone, but I've been riled up about this for a little bit. This just makes no sense to me.
Peeps, I don't blame you, man.
The booking makes no sense. I'm sorry.
I don't blame you, Peeps. I don't blame you. Next comes from HBK Chris 01, and he says, so I guess Vince sees that if he breaks up RK Bro, now he loses out on millions. Yes, as we said before, I mean, something I always say at the beginning of the show, if you guys are dumb, stupid, or haven't been back to school, but, something tells me that you guys that send in the questions, you guys are pretty smart, with the exception of Hot Rod. I'm playing. But still, you guys are on the money with these questions. Yes, I mean, this is a perfect observation itself. I mean, I myself even went ahead and got myself an RK Bro 420 t-shirt from the WWE shop on the day of 420. I mean, peeps, listen. Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, I have to say, was the tag
You
team that
can't use his first name. You got to call him Riddle because apparently they weren't born with first names.
Why does this happen to me?
Yes.
God.
Yes.
But yes, Riddle.
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress from that, but still, the fact of the matter is this.
That's number 4, man.
Yes.
And then we've gone 3 weeks, and in the previous 2 weeks, we only got 1 I digress in either of those 2 weeks. And we gotten 4 in one shot.
We're on a roll today.
Oh, good grief. Yeah.
Trust me, guys. Trust me. When I say this, I want to say it like this. RK Bro is the moneymaker when it comes to a tag team in this current generation of WWE. If they were to break this up, no moolah for Vince, and you know how Vince is when it gets the money. I mean, you know, it's like PB&J. They go together, and if RK Bro gets broken up, yeah, trust me, ain't none of that.
And that's the reason why the brand split, if you're going to do this brand split and keep it that way, you have to have separate champs for each show and treat each show like it's its own promotion. And that's the danger that you run for taking singles champs and unifying those belts and trying to do the same thing with the tag team championships and unifying those belts. And then if you don't go ahead and use the US champ and the Intercontinental champ and make those, if that was going to be the case, and having those, the elevated television type championships that you would use and showcase them and actually act as if they're not invisible silhouettes bouncing around on a trampoline, and using them on television to elevate that secondary championship, then you're going to run into this problem on a regular basis, and you're not going to have any real compelling storylines to build matches for these premium live events, that because people aren't going to care.
I'm beginning not to even care now, but I mean, still, I think the reason that he stopped is because this past Monday night on Raw, where we had to see Randy go ahead and celebrate his 20th year in the business, and to see how that tag team just works and everything out of that ordinary, Vince said, okay, we're pulling the plug on this. We can't go ahead and have a title unification and just give the title to the Usos, you know. But still, at the end of the day, they break this squad up. I don't think anybody would want to watch Raw, because this is the only reason we watch Raw, aside from the fact that, you know, Cody is on Raw, if I'm being mistaken, peeps.
Yes.
But you know something? Aside from that, HBK Chris, good question. Speaking of Cody, last one comes from the Doctor of Thugonomics, and he says word on the street is Cody wants to bring back the Winged Eagle if he wins the undisputed title. Peeps,
That's interesting.
Peeps, as much as I like traditional titles, if I were to get to see the Winged Eagle back again, I mean, you know, of course, new updated WWE logo, stuff like that. But I mean, still, to see the Winged Eagle and to think that Cody Rhodes would hold that title, I mean, that title still looks beautiful to this day. I mean, come on now. But hey, listen, he did it with the Intercontinental title. I wouldn't mind seeing it with the WWE title. What are your thoughts on this, Pete?
I think that would be interesting. I mean, they've gone, I believe, with this iteration of these championships since when the Rock first initially debuted it in his feud with CM Punk. Yeah. I believe it's been 10 years. So this current iteration with that giant WWE logo right in the center plate has gone through this string. It's been quite some time that they've used this particular design. Yeah. So if they were to actually go back, if Cody does in fact win the WWE Universal Alpha Omega Supreme Super Cat Championship belt,
I-95 South.
Yes. If he does win it and he decides to say, well, I'm going to go with tradition, it would be even funnier if he went further back and then went to the WWE Championship that Hulk Hogan first won, you know, the big round belt that he beat the Iron Sheik with. And then they design that belt and make that the championship and say, this is the belt that my dad did not get to win. And do that. That would make sense.
Imagine.
And I like the question from the good doctor. That's something that would be a real cool thing. But I personally think it would be more nostalgic if he decided to do something like that. Because if you think about it, the NXT North American Championship is literally what the old WWF Championship belt looked like. The one that the Iron Sheik had.
Of course.
The one that Bob
Backlund
Backlund had.
Yes.
The one that Hulk Hogan had for the first couple of months of his WWF Championship reign was that belt. It just had green leather instead of the brown leather that you see on the North American Championship. Exactly. So if they did something like that, I think that would make much more sense than the Winged Eagle belt. But it would look good on Cody if he did win.
Of course. But good question from that. And that makes it the last question of S.A.M.E. Ladies and gentlemen, we always say we like these questions. Keep sending them in on Instagram. Yes. Let the ticker go ahead and slide through, but I'm just gonna keep saying it. At Saturday afternoons _main event. There it is, coming off the ticker right there.
There you go. I'll point to it again. There you go,
peeps. There you go. Yes, sir. But
my bony fingers.
Oh, dang, peeps.
Yes.
But certainly, here comes the last topic at hand. And this one, due to the fact that, sometimes it may be hard for you to go ahead and see it off here, I'll go ahead and display the picture for here, on the screen for you guys too. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just go ahead and say it like this. We might actually go ahead and see something great happen within the next month. This picture says it all. We are looking at Hangman Adam Page, the AEW World Champion. And then we're looking at CM Punk. But here's the thing, okay? Let me go ahead and set this right for you guys. If you were to tell me back in 2017 that 5 years later, CM Punk would be on another promotion, wrestling once again, and most likely getting a title shot 1 year into his comeback to pro wrestling, I would smack you into oblivion. But sadly, you'd probably smack me back 5 years later, because now next month in May, at All Elite Wrestling's flagship event, Double or Nothing, that will be on pay-per-view and not a premium live event, Punk will wrestle in the main event to face Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World title. But peeps, the question is now, what do they do in this stance? Because, of course, we all know Khan wants to put the title on Punk. But with what we've already seen, this can go many different ways. And since the moment we've had this announcement, I've had so many scenarios in my head. One has been, okay, we get to the match, but Adam Cole costs Punk the match, and they go into the separate feud, and Page still goes into wrestling whoever he can find on the roster. The other one is we go ahead and we have Cole go ahead and cost Page the title, but then, Punk is out here wrestling whoever he can possibly find, and Page is out here in a feud with Adam Cole, rightfully without a title. Or we can go the route that almost every other wrestling fan wants to go and have Cole cost Punk the title, and we go into that feud. Peeps, listen, at this point, I can care less who costs who the title, but if it's up to me, the 10-year-old phenomenal one wants to go ahead and see Punk win the AEW World title. What are your thoughts?
So what you're telling me is Hangman Adam Page is the AEW World Champion? Well, I didn't even know that. You wouldn't have been able to tell that looking at AEW television over the last couple of months because they don't promote him. Okay. Here, my issue with AEW, for a lot of the things that they have done right, they've done a whole lot of boneheaded things in this company.
That's facts.
And one of the boneheaded things that they have done as I alluded to in our last show, was that they have done, and I'm gonna give you the exact quote that I used at my last show. They have done a piss poor job promoting Hangman Adam Page as the AEW World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion.
Amen to
If
that.
you were somebody that didn't watch AEW and you just looked at it, you would think, wow, is CM Punk the world champion? Oh, is Adam Cole the world champion? Is somebody else the world champion? Is MJF the world champion? Because those guys are promoted at the top of the show, in the middle of the show, or at the end of the show.
Of course.
The world champion is supposed to get booked, as I've said before also. You book the mid-carder as the champ. You don't book the champ as the mid-carder. Now, as I've been also saying before, I'm going to be using a lot of this again. I'm not going to besmirch or disrespect Adam Hangman Page for being a mid-carder, because he definitely isn't. He's a great in-ring talent. I've seen him wrestle even when he was in New Japan, when he wrestled in Ring of Honor. I've seen him wrestle lots of times. He is a star. The problem is the journey from when he was going for the championship, great. The journey after he won the belt and him keeping the belt, not so great. Even though he's had 2 great matches with Bryan Danielson, he had a really good match with Adam Cole. He had the feud with the Murder Hawk Monster. And we also know that he can, if given that opportunity to show you he's the world champion, can be so. The problem is they don't promote him as such. And in doing so, whoever he gets into the ring with already by default is more deserving of being a world champion than Adam Page. And that's the problem with this whole setup. There's only one scenario that works going in, because Double or Nothing is their WrestleMania, if you want to comparatively put it to what their show means as far as importance of their big shows. If CM Punk does not come out of that pay-per-view as your world champion, then there's going to be something wrong here, because they have to get the belt off of Page and move on to something else. As you said before, they can develop other ancillary storylines to build Page back up, because I think he was better chasing for the championship than being chased. And I think that when you look at what Punk has been doing, his whole entire 8 months in AEW has been retribution. I need to show you that I can still do this. I can still have those great matches. I can still be that star. And we saw the matches that he had with some of the New Japan talent. We've also seen some of the matches that he's had, especially the feud with MJF, which was absolutely phenomenal. The 2 matches that they've had, and you know a third is coming. You're going to build Punk up. You let him win the championship. And then after the Wardlow feud with MJF dies down, the first thing MJF does is, I'm going back after that championship that I should be wearing, and it's around the waist of PG Punk, and I need to take it away from him. And then you build that up for however long it takes until you get the money match on the next pay-per-view. That's how you do it. Because all intents and purposes are that Page has been a good champion. They just haven't promoted him right, and he doesn't have that feel of being a world champion. But I tell you who else you got to also think about as well. At some point, Kenny Omega is going to come back from his injury, and they're going to bring him back into this. So maybe at some point, maybe he's good enough to come in and he'll be the guy that costs Page the championship. You never know. You know that at some point that's going to happen.
Of course.
So that's where you go, I think, is that you take the belt off of Page, you let CM Punk have his moment at Double or Nothing in Vegas, and then you build towards, you know what, that Forbidden Door pay-per-view that's going to be in Chicago in June kind of makes sense if we put CM Punk as your world champion in the main event against whoever it is from New Japan. and see what happens from there.
Exactly.
Wow, that makes perfect sense to me. But what do I know? It's an 800-pound gorilla in the room that no one's talking about.
Don't blame me, Peace. But for your final prediction, if I'm certainly correct and you're certainly correct, we both want to see Punk go ahead and go for the 3 count and hold that title, right?
Yes.
Well, that does it. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here from us first. We want to see CM Punk win the AEW World title, and we most likely know that you guys want to see it too. But with that being said, peeps, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end to episode 10 of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. Thank you to everybody that went ahead and tuned in today. We thank you guys for going ahead and being so great supporters. I mean, you know, without you guys, me and Peeps wouldn't be doing what we do best. And that is to be giving you guys laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible.
Yes.
Now, Peeps, you know, what else can we say, man? But always go ahead and tune in. Certainly tune in next week and the week after, because of course, in about 2 more weeks, we will be having our season finale. And then, as I said a couple of weeks back, Peeps will go on that gloried vacation that he's certainly been wanting to go ahead and have.
Yes. And cook my butt off.
You hear that?
Yes.
First things first, of course.
Yes.
But certainly, guys, with that being said, on this episode of Saturday Afternoon's Main Events, the Phenomenal One.
And I, Peeps Nate, where we came.
We saw.
And in the words of Paul Heyman, we conquered.
Boom. Yes, we conquered, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
And with that, have a great rest of your week.
Yes.
Signing off here today on episode 10 of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. The Phenomenal One, alongside Peeps Nate. Peace, love, farewell.